Hello, everyone out there. Welcome to Ale of a Time on Beer Together Monday nights. I will welcome my co-host and good friend Dave Ellis. Dave, how are you going?
I'm very well. And yourself, mate?
I'm really good, actually. I spent the day
What's been
playing
up?
Civilization 6 on a public holiday.
So you're feeling powerful, I imagine.
Mm,
Is that right?
Feeling frantic.
Fair
Um,
enough. What's your go-to civilization to control?
I'm trying to win as Kupe, which is the Maori civilization, but it's really difficult because he starts off in the water, and you need to find land, and then it's a whole thing. It's a
Sure.
very stressful
Okay.
thing. Um,
What a challenge.
yeah, we'll introduce our guest, Brody from Seasonal Brewing. Brody, how are you going?
Hey, I'm good, thanks, Luke. How are you? Yeah, it sounds like you've had a pretty exciting day. So,
Brody, have you played Civilization 6 before?
I have. I've definitely sunk a few hours into it. And it's I've found myself losing track of the days, and the days quickly become night, and then back into day again. Yeah,
Yeah,
very addictive game.
I started playing over Christmas time, and I thought, I've got a bit of time over Christmas. I will just get it out of my system now. I'll try it. I've heard it's addictive, but I'm sure I can get it all done before I have to get back to work. We're hitting March, and I'm watching YouTube tutorials endlessly.
I see. Right.
Getting very serious.
Now, Dave, did I ask how you were?
I think so. I had a pretty short answer. I said I'm doing very well.
Okay.
Yeah,
Do you
it's
have a
been.
beer
I
in your
haven't had
hand?
I do, mate. I have. We've talked about it the last couple of shows actually. So I thought I'd pick up a bottle. I've got some triple Camellia.
Oh,
So I'm feeling good about myself, obviously.
had
Yeah.
you had it? Had
No,
you?
this is my first time trying it. Yeah. I'm a huge fan of the style, and this is widely regarded as like the benchmark style. It's a tad sweeter than I thought. It kind of tastes a bit like it like passed through like a musket barrel or something like that. It's that
Mm.
kind of sweetness. But it's kind of fun. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I always found the beers from that brewery, Camellia. I don't know how to say it properly.
I don't think
Um,
that's the brewery, is it? It's Bastille's.
yeah.
Yeah.
Very sweet though. I've too sweet for
Yeah.
me.
Well, yeah, it's a sweet that like isn't offensive to me because I mean, as you well know, that I'm not really a fan of anything that's overly sweet either. But this kind of, I don't know, it kind of hits the profile in a way that I don't mind.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
Now it is International Women's Day, and we were talking at the start of this how much of a bad look it is that we're pretty much three interchangeable dudes. Uh, um, I just didn't realize and didn't plan anything. But I guess happy International Women's Day. And I've got the Two Birds beer they've done for it, which is Warrior Woman, which is a hazy pale. It's delicious. I was drinking that last night on tap at Littlefoot, one of my locals here, and yeah, delicious, really good beer. And 50 cents from every beer goes to Sister Works and Girls Rock, which are two really cool charities. I think Girls Rock is national, or there's Girls Rock in different states around the country, and then Sister Works is a Melbourne-based to help refugee women get into business and sort of get a start. So yeah, two really cool things.
Yeah,
I'm just
Absolutely.
Brody.
yeah,
Have you got one of your beers?
yeah. It's a bit of shameless self promotion. Drinking sorry, I've
That's what
got
you're
the
here
right.
for. That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, drinking a session IPA, which we've recently canned a couple of weeks ago, with Eclipse and Azarka hops, 3.8%. It's a good one for drinking weeknights or any time really, but weeknights are better to
So
keep a lid on things.
was this your first time using Eclipse? Because we did a whole show with HPA all about that. I'm curious to find out what people's experiences are.
Yeah, it was the first time. I find it's really I really like the character that it throws and that sort of thing. It's lots of citrus and mandarin particularly, which I really enjoy. It I did find that it wasn't really as punchy as some of the other hops that I've used in terms of I had to up the dry hop rate and that sort of thing compared to some of the other varieties. But I mean that's the great thing about all these new hops, learning how to use them and what does, what doesn't work. And there's always something new on the horizon, which is great.
So, Brody, I don't think neither Dave nor I know too much. Dave, you know much about seasonal brewing?
No, not at all. Like I've had a look at the website today, and I went to Carwin to see if they had any of your beers, and they looked at me like I was speaking a different language. So I'm keen to hear all about it.
Yeah. So, Brody, what
sorry.
is seasonal? What's the kind of, I guess, the top line summary, and we'll go from there.
I guess it was originally conceived from the owner's perspective, as a place where he can go to drink the beers that he really likes to drink, and he's got a homebrew background and that sort of thing, and he wanted it close to home, so he walks to work. It's a 2 or 3 minute walk to work, so that's ticks that box for him. And yeah, basically we have a small core range of 5 products, and then we've got another sort of between 5 and 8 beers that are sort of rotating, and it's basically about brewing, I guess, seasonal brews, something different, something new for keep it fresh. And so we got everything from barley wines to saison, and then we got a lager. Like it's something for everyone, and hopefully people keep coming back because there's always going to be something new on for them.
And your head brewer?
Correct, yeah. So I've been on from day one. We got a 300-person capacity venue as well, with the brew house in the venue. So it's a classic brew pub sort of model. We're about 5 kilometres from the CBD of Perth. It's on a train line, which is great for commuting to and from. And it's a great place to work. And we keep making better and better beers, hopefully.
How did you get to get this job?
So prior to here, I was I'm going to mention my previous employment. I hope that's all right.
I can't imagine we'd have any rules around that.
If you hate them, it could be an issue. But besides that, go for it.
Don't hate them. So I was working up at Indian Ocean Brewing, which is that's in about 40 kilometres north of Perth, and I'd been there for about 3 years, and basically a job went up on I think it was one of the job websites, and basically I responded, contacted Nick, the owner, and we met, and that was that. That was about 12 months prior to the opening, so there's a little bit of waiting, which is get a little bit of anxiety and that sort of thing about how things are going, if everything's still on track and that sort of thing. But that was great.
How much work can you do in that sort of lead up time to?
I still was. I remained with Indian Ocean for saw out my period there, and then there were a few delays during the construction and that sort of thing, which I find there always is going to be with these sort of pretty large projects. So there was a fair bit of home brewing, which it's a lot more work than working on a big brew kit, unfortunately. So I was glad to put those days behind me when we finally opened. But a lot of just following trends, research, that sort of thing. Getting systems in place so that when we did open, we were able to hit the ground running, and we weren't trying to, work out how we were going to track certain things. We knew where beer was going to go. We knew where ingredients were going. We knew how we were going to track everything, and in beer, the sort of things like stock management and even raw ingredient management is such an important thing, and being able to and being confident that we knew what we were doing, basically. So there was a reasonable amount to do.
So you mentioned homebrewing during that period. Is that how you got into brewing at Indian Ocean, or?
No, actually, I sort of originally started at Homestead. That was 6 years ago-ish. So basically, I was finishing a degree at uni in environmental biology. And at that time, all the jobs in that industry had sort of shriveled up. I was just behind the bar there, brewer. the assistant brewer there left. Basically, he said, "Yeah, I'm not coming in. This is my handing my notice. We need someone ASAP, that sort of thing." So I was happy to fill that, fill his shoes for a while. And
did you know anything about brewing at that point?
I knew that it looked cool. There's a lot of shiny stainless. I was pretty fresh in terms of I had only just sort of gotten into beer. You have your Epiphany beer, and that probably wasn't too long before then. And it sort of snowballed from there. After that, they eventually found a sort of full-time replacement for the previous brewer. So I was sort of I was in and out of the brewery a little bit, but not anywhere near as much as I'd like to have been. I spent a short stint working at a Dutch trading company. I'm not sure if you guys are aware of that. And then actually the same brewer who I sort of replaced ended up employing me at Indian Ocean. So so that was sort of I guess a brief history of myself.
You mentioned Epiphany beer. Do you?
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's more the story than the actual beer. It was I'd spent the day at I don't know, some sort of spring carnival day at the races, essentially drinking warm stubbies of Carlton Dry or something disgusting like that all day. And we went to a pub or bar afterwards, and it was Colonial Draft. It's not anything that's going to be right now it's a great, don't get me wrong, it's a good beer, but it's not like I was drinking a double IPA as my first beer or anything like that. But it's just that difference that beer could actually taste good. So not the most exciting story, but it was the fact that I've been drinking something all day and I didn't really like it, and realized that I probably could have been drinking something I did like.
I still think there's something in that of terms of finding a local beer, made locally. At the end of the day, it's so easy now to do, I guess. But I mean, I guess back then, 5, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, it was unusual to find a locally brewed beer.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, at the time, I know they've got their place in, is it Port Melbourne? But they were based in Murray River, which is about 300 kilometres south of Perth. But I happened to visit the area fairly frequently, and every time I'd make an effort to go and pop in and have some food and have a few beers there as well. So I mean, it's
a great spot there. Yeah, it's so good.
Have you been to the Margaret River one, Dave?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, what was it, 2019? I guess I went to Perth for a trip, and gee, it's a fun spot.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it seems like every brewery there has got like a pretty staggeringly good space in the area. Like, just whether it's just beautiful or if it's just like a cool spot or great food or whatever. Like, there's just plenty to offer there anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a lot of these places becoming more and more family friendly, which is that's good as well, because I mean, at the end of the day, people who have families sometimes like to drink beer as well. So if they can have somewhere for their kids to be entertained for the day while they're having some good food, good beer, that's great.
How good is it though to have a pint of Colonial Draft and just launch a golf ball into the pond? There's nothing better than that.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know, you mentioned Dutch trading, Indian Ocean, kind of names that we're pretty familiar with over on this coast, but I sort of don't. I feel we're so far away, we don't really have a handle on the scene over there in WA and what's exciting. And it seems like there's a ton of breweries sort of popping up, and there's kind of some of the smaller ones are kind of making a name for themselves now that they're established. How does it feel being in around the scene over there? Does it feel exciting and growing still, or?
Yeah, it definitely does. I mean, I think last year there was probably 5 or 6 new breweries that opened up in WA. Whether it was the Swan Valley, which is just for anyone who's not aware, that's about 30 kilometres away from the CBD. It's another wine region. So there's quite a high concentration of breweries there. And then there's obviously the Moat River region as well, which seems to have quite a lot of breweries. But it's definitely exciting. It's quite tight knit over here as well, which is really good. There's always someone you can ask for advice, or someone who's had a similar issue. But at the same time, everyone's here to sort of push each other, and everyone wants to be making the best beer that they possibly can. And it's a really really good scene. If I wasn't enjoying it, I wouldn't be working in the industry. It's just really, it's really nice. Got some great friends within the industry that I've met through the industry as well. So, it's definitely an exciting environment.
How'd you go from your Epiphany Beer moment to getting into the industry?
Like I say, it was just sort of, I guess you taste the beer, you realize that beer doesn't have to taste like it's sat in the sun for 12 months. It can actually taste fresh, and you explore, you taste new beers. You eventually, if you've got a decent bottle shop or bar close to your house, you can make a good relationship with people there, and they have recommendations. They know what's fresh, they know what people are liking. As long as they're a good person, they're not going to recommend you the sort of trash. Sort of, I guess, does that answer your question?
Yeah, definitely. That's great.
Now, so coming back to seasonal, I'm guessing you kind of touched on the approach a little bit, but I guess seasonality does play a big role in the beers.
Yeah, I mean, you want to have some balance within the tap list. So, I mean, you don't want to just have 8 stouts in winter, because not everyone's going to want to drink a stout. And to the same token, I guess, in summer there's still some people that will want to drink a stout or something. So, well, yeah, we do want to keep things relatively seasonally appropriate, I guess. But at the same time, it's all about having balance. I mean, we've brewed a few things last year that we've sort of put away, and we'll, as sort of, I guess, a library stock or something like that. So potentially, we've got that chance for a rainy day, just put on a keg of barley wine or whatever it might be. I mean, it's the sort of seasonality thing is, I guess, more of a guideline. It's very difficult to manage. Yeah, sort of, okay, so 3 weeks ago we just came into autumn. It'd be difficult for us to just cut all stock on the 28th February and then all have 8 new beers on the 1st of March, that sort of thing. So we use the seasons to guide us, and at the end of the day, the customers are the ones that we're making beer for. So if they're going to drink it, we're going to make it, I guess.
You mentioned stout. How does stout sell in WA at the moment?
There's not a lot around, actually. Like, I went to the bottle shop last week, and there was maybe 3 local stouts. So I reckon there's a sort of opportunity for someone to get in there and sell a little bit of stout. We've got one in tank at the moment. So we released it last year as well. It was a nitro stout. It was my first time sort of playing around with a nitro beer, and you don't really see a lot of them in Perth. I'm doing that again. That's in tank, so that should be released again next week. Whether or not the weather's going to be appropriate is up to the drinker, I guess.
What are some, having never used or played around with nitro beers before, any lessons that you learned? Any kind of key takeaways?
It's pretty fickle, yeah. Like, we didn't really have anything to measure nitrogen within the product. So basically, we were getting some small kegs and sort of kegging a keg, pouring it through the lines, and basically checking if it had enough nitrogen character, which is a pretty wasteful way. But fortunately, it was it worked out in the end. And then there was also the case of someone hooking bar gas up to the nitrogen tank, which didn't work great. But we got there in the end. It's all a learning experience. Customers weren't too upset, so that's all that matters.
So what does sell mostly over the bar? What are you making the most of?
We've got a passion fruit and guava goes are on at the moment, which sells quite well. So that would probably be the biggest seller of the last sort of 3 months, I guess. And then juicy pale ale, which I guess sort of a hazy or juicy pale ale and that also just walks out the door as well. So, but as the lager and the pale ale are strong performers as well. I think there's, the two different groups of drinkers, people that are looking for something interesting, something different, and someone who's looking for a beer. And you can kind of tell and at the end of the day, we might be a craft brewery, but at the end, people, not everyone is a craft beer drinker, and you have to cater to that as well. So, it's all about educating and bringing new people into the industry, I guess.
You got your first taste from a colonial draft, so I mean, I'm sure like a raft of people that that see the light from some of your more down the line beers. So it's definitely an important thing to have.
So, I just want to mention I'm almost finished my Warrior Woman Juicy Pale. Man, it's really good. If you're around a can in the next week or so, I don't know how much is around, but yeah, really tasty.
Nice. I'm always interested, Brody, in big beers, and I'm interested in them here, but I think it's a different equation in Perth. I noticed on your website you got a few like big beers that you put on tap. How do they go?
I think it's that people will drink them, but there's still a little bit of a gap between what the customer knows and what the customer wants, if that makes sense. So we have a barley wine on tap at the moment, actually, which is 12.4%. People are scared of it, but you put it on a tasting paddle and they'll drink it. There's, like I say, it comes down to education more than anything, I believe. We're quite a family-orientated venue, and we've always promoted ourselves as being family-orientated. We've got a little kids' playground and that sort of thing, and potentially there's quite a few customers that are coming just, we're a brewery, but they've got somewhere to entertain their kids, and maybe they like beer, but they're not that into it. So we sort of have to, I guess, direct them a little bit and give them a little bit of guidance as to what they like, because I mean, barley wines, they're A, expensive to drink, and B, there aren't a lot of them. So chances are someone who spends every day drinking cut and dry, they probably never come across a barley wine, but that doesn't mean that they don't like them. They sell reasonably. Sorry, I've kind of just done a full circle, but they sell pretty reasonably.
That's exactly what I was looking for. It's a weird issue to tackle when you want to brew those kinds of things and you have a tap room. I mean, even here, but like particularly in a place that has like a warmer climate.
Yeah,
it's a challenge.
Yeah, and you need to have that diverse range to get a diverse group of people. If you want those craft beer drinkers, you've got to have. It doesn't have to be a 12.4% barley wine, but it has to be something that they're going to be interested in. But you also need that lager for the lager drinkers to be interested in. You'd probably want a spectrum in the middle as well.
I really like
maybe a brave bar just has just barley wine and lager. Yeah, it actually sounds like it's right up my alley, to be honest. But
I always wanted to open a bar that had two sides. One was painted white, one was painted red. The white side just did Pilsner and Martini. The red side was just IPA and Negroni. You get two options.
Take us offline. Let's get this patented right now. Yeah.
Just depending on which door you walk through, you get two options. If you don't like it, maybe you can go the other door. But if you don't like that, get out.
That sounds incredible. Yeah.
It doesn't make any business sense, I don't think, though.
I'd be a local, I reckon.
I do like, you're talking about how a lot of people might not come in for the beer. They come in because it's a nice place and, there's a playground. And I really like, that's a thought or part of the industry is, for so long that beer and brewing is either seen as kind of a, the stereotype on TV advertising of the kind of blokey, footy guy, and now it's kind of guys like us, white guys with beards. But there is such a big audience for these spaces that aren't, either of those things. They're just people that want to go to a nice place, and I think, breweries like yourself and plenty others that we know offer, they offer a space and they offer a thoughtful, including it in their daily life, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess it's that thing where, like you touched on it being somewhat exclusive to, what do you say, footy players and then it's white guys with beards. Beer is such a diverse product that I don't think you can say objectively you either like or you don't like beer. And yeah, I mean, you've got to be building a venue that is inviting to everyone and not just white men with beards. So yeah, I think it's.
Are you making a seltzer yet? Is seltzer even taking off in WA at the moment?
All the bottle shops I speak to say that it is, but I'm not 100% sure. There are a few places making seltzers over here, but we are not. What is the market like in over on the other side of the country?
I haven't seen any stats. It's quite hard to get stats on it at the moment. But anecdotally, I'm part of a sports club, and we hire it out for private groups sometimes. And I was along helping out, and the group was, I think, hospitality people, so chefs and waiters and bar people, and a lot of seltzer was going down.
Okay.
There was the Stoner Wood one, Sunly. We've had Pat on the show before. There was White Claw was certainly going down, and then there was the Ray, the Hop Nation Footscray one. But it was the coffee version. They did a coffee version with Black Hearts.
Yeah, right.
And I think a coffee supply, which apparently is really, really good, and I'm curious about it because I think that's a fun.
Have you not tried that one, Luke?
The coffee one? No.
Yeah, it is. It is the best one.
Okay. The best one.
Yeah, well, that I've had it anyway.
Yeah. And chatting to people that make it, the names that you think of when you think of seltzer, I guess, around Melbourne, people are selling a lot of it pretty quickly.
I feel like, and there's nothing to back this up, but just my own anecdotal experience. I feel like it exploded over summer, and it might have backed off a little bit since then, but it's still a very real thing, though.
Okay.
Chatting to the team at Broadsheet just to find out how their stories were going, because here in Melbourne, Broadsheet's kind of the bellwether for hospo places. They weren't getting a lot of readers to their seltzer articles. This was last year, kind of before summertime.
Okay, go on.
And the numbers were, they said, I don't know how much I can say, but much lower than they would expect for a semi-well-read article.
Nah, but like the whole reason why seltzer is taking off is because it's no one that gives a shit about Broadsheet or anything that's like trend. Like it's not an engagement product.
Yeah.
And that's why it's almost like key to like if you're in an area where people have got that sort of level of engagement, you have to have one, because I mean it feel like, no stats behind it, but it feels like the Moondog fizzes have plateaued a little bit, but like, man, more people were drinking, like just eyeballing it. If you're at the venue, it was clear pint after clear pint after clear pint you were seeing around the place. So like that's what the people that were there for the experience, and because it's like a fun place to go in a odd area, it's not really a beer fan venue really. They're not reading Broadsheet, but they're all hitting pints of seltzer.
Oh, I actually haven't seen many seltzers on tap in Perth. I haven't been out that much lately, but I figure I would have noticed if I saw seltzers on tap. So maybe it is just a little bit quieter over here in the seltzer business. I
feel
do
like
know
the weather is just primed for it, though.
Yeah. I know the White Claw stuff just disappears off shelves very quickly. So that's popular, but I'm not sure with what market. It must be people who know what White Claw is, because there's a whole fridge full of seltzers, and if they're the only ones that are selling it, sounds like someone knows what they're looking for.
Yeah. I've had that experience regionally in Victoria. Like we went to, where the hell were we? In like Apollo Bay, like the local pub that's like a beach town here.
Yep.
The local pub was pumping, and the local bottle shop had no White Claw, and it had like a couple of other like seltzers that were fully stocked, and the White Claw were gone, but it was just business as usual for everything else.
Yeah, right. Yeah, interesting. I'm interested to see how the whole thing goes, if it is a long-term sort of sustainable thing for people to continue producing, and if people are going to keep drinking or wanting to keep drinking it. Yeah.
It's fascinating to watch play out, because people have some really strong opinions about what its place is in the beer world and why we even talk about it. But I think all three of us, this is completely unrelated to what we're coming to talk about it, but we want to all talk about it because it's interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think like for the person in the group that's pushing to go to a craft brewery for a day out or whatever, seltzer makes it a better proposition for everyone else.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've got a ginger beer on tap. We don't make it, but we've got a ginger beer. We offer a cider as well, just because you need to have that full array of drinks for people to drink, because not everyone is going to want to drink a 12.4% barley wine.
Yeah, and there is that level of like education that like you say you don't like beers, haven't had the right one yet, but that's not going to sway every person.
Yeah, like I have to suffer through every tap to find my own one. Like I'm trying to have a good day out. Like, I don't need to be
they want to
educated.
not think about what they're consuming, and that's almost exactly what seltzers are for.
Yeah. I really like ginger beer, and like good ginger beer, right? And I always I think it's a shame there's not so many of them around. After I think we did a Bent Spoke episode a while back, we had theirs, and I was like, man, I really want to drink a lot more. Especially on a hot day, or if you had a few beers, it's a nice, easy way to
you
mix
don't give
things
them the credit they deserve till you've got one in your hand and you're drinking it. Then you go, this actually rules. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of people not making ginger beer in a conventional sense as well. It's sort of more treated as, I guess, an RTD or something like that, where it's just flavored syrup and alcohol, which, from a business perspective, it must make sense because that's how people are making them. But I think that potentially discredits ginger beer to a degree. That's my personal opinion. But on a hot day, there's not a lot better than a cold ginger beer.
I wanted to talk about one of the things at Seasonal, which I really quite liked, was the focus on art. Local artists are kind of highlighted on the website. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah. So basically, one of the owner, her name's Emily. She's a professional artist, and basically she wanted to do all the art installations and that sort of thing. So she sort of is in charge of installing them. I'm not sure if there's any photos of the of the walls and that sort of thing on the website. I don't spend much time on it, but it's she comes in. She I guess liaises with artists and curates the whole hall. So I think there's probably I couldn't even count how many pieces of art in there. All the walls are covered in art. So
it is. I think there's a decent chunk on the website with photos of the works in
progress.
Okay.
Yep.
Which is kind of cool.
So she sort of changes them up every 3-6 months, depending on what the art is. Some of it is a little bit bigger, so a little bit more difficult to move in and out. But yeah, it's a really nice space. It adds the venue. It's hard to, I guess, articulate through photos and that sort of thing, but it has a really like sort of homely feel, and it is really quite comforting, and it's a nice space to be in, and the art just adds that extra sort of dimension. There's several murals outside the venue, and one inside the venue. I mean, it's just, I guess, trying to promote that sort of local art scene, I guess. There's, in the last sort of couple of years, I've noticed personally a lot more art being promoted within the local industry and local community and that sort of thing. So I think Perth is just, this is, like I say, I could be completely right. I could be way off.
No, I think you're.
Off the mark.
I know that other side have done a lot around art.
Yeah, with music particularly.
Yeah.
And they do. I think they have done some visual art stuff as well.
And like even Little Creatures, and I think they copped some criticism. It was a few years ago now, where they did design a label, enter your label, and you'll get it, used on the cans, and people were like, "Well, you're not going to pay. You're just getting free art for that."
Yeah, I guess it's hard. I know that.
No, I don't. You don't need to comment on that either way.
No. But I mean, I know that. I know the other side have, they've got their some sort of competition, and then they give quite a lot back to the artist as well. And I'm not trying to say Little Creatures are wrong or anything like that. But I mean, someone's got to start somewhere, right? Like, you can't just start doing the most, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not gonna.
But the other thing about Little Creatures on the flip side of that though is like their Fremantle venue, I'm pretty sure always has like local artists exhibited at least on the top levels around, like with the purpose to sell that artwork or whatever.
Yeah,
so, like there is like a genuine interest in propelling local
artists. I don't think they were trying to be exploitative. Is what I'm trying to articulate.
It's an interesting one that because it is an incredible opportunity for someone, but yeah. I also don't think they're trying to be exploitative. So how I feel like COVID, looking through at WA, COVID kind of didn't really impact as much. I saw beer festivals happening in WA. How does it feel from someone that's been working around there?
So we had, it would have been, I guess, 12 months ago now. We had a lockdown, and fortunately, I guess as a result of us being so isolated, we didn't have a whole lot of people coming in and spreading COVID. So we managed to, I think we will open up to not full capacity, but like half capacity or a quarter capacity about 6 weeks after that initial lockdown. That initial lockdown was a bit of a shock. We sort of all the tanks were full. The cool rooms were full of beer. Like had sort of just come out of summer, and so we were trying to get ahead and that sort of thing. So basically, we had all this beer. We had nowhere to sell. So we ended up canning a little bit, which was our first sort of dip into the pool that is small pack. So yeah, we managed to get out of that all right, and then we sort of opened back up to full capacity. So yeah, I mean, the other thing is that no one had anywhere to go, so all of the money that would have gone to like international holidays, I think, sort of just got pumped back into hospitality. So a lot of places were doing their sort of summer figures in winter, which winter is, in Perth at least, we tend to have a very quiet period. We do a lot more sales over summer than we do during winter, but last winter it was sort of just like summer again. So yeah, it was interesting. And then about a month ago we had another shutdown, so for a week, which that was a little bit odd. So I just didn't go to work for that week because the announcement was sort of on the Sunday, and the Premier sort of said, the next announcement will be on Friday, and didn't know what was going to go on, and every day there was no new case. There was literally one case that sort of shocked this whole system into shutdown, and every day it was like 0 new cases, so by the sort of Thursday, I worked out that I was probably going to have to go back to work the week after. So
gonna have to go back to work eventually.
It sounds like that it was a pivot that got you to start packaging the beers. How far away were you from organically doing that anyway?
Yeah, we're kind of in a little bit of a tough spot with that. The capacity that we've got at the current space isn't that much further above just being able to supply kegs, so we couldn't sort of core range cans particularly easily from our own site. So we were looking into it, but we were sort of at the time considering more sort of big beers in sort of 750ml bottles, like sort of share packaging and that sort of thing, just because, I mean, personally, I really like to promote that sort of social, go around to your mate's house and share a bottle of beer with you and 3 mates or something like that. That means a lot to me. So that's what I was sort of pushing for. And we'd sort of spoken about doing it over the winter. So we ended up pulling it back and doing it in about April. We had to get all the artwork, all the, source all the cans, and at the time we weren't really sure what was going to happen, because we had like a lot of shortages with some of the suppliers and that sort of thing, just because it was just a sort of snap lockdown. But yeah, so we sort of pulled it forward, and we've done an additional, I think, 4 canning runs since then, and it's just just trying to get our name out there, and we're really busy, but it's just we're still trying to get new people to recognize the business, and it's trying to work out how to do it. We're all trying to build the business, basically. It's
So are you using mobile canning?
Yeah, so I think there's only the single mobile canning company over here. We got Wiley, who do a lot of breweries. During COVID, they were booked back to back. Like, they were doing 7-day weeks a lot of the time, and it's the only real option that we had. We haven't got space for a canning line ourselves, and the only other option would be to sort of get it brewed at another brewery, which is, that comes with its own issues and that sort of thing, and we're not quite ready to have to deal with that. So we get them in every between 6 weeks and 2 months, I guess, somewhere in that period, and we sort of do what's going to be either a unique position in the fridges of bottle shops and that sort of thing, or something that's just selling really well at the venue. But hopefully we'll still get down to the big share bottles, and it's one of those things where we've sort of, now that we've started canning, it's a completely different sort of, we've got to consider, do we stop canning to do some bigger package runs, and like I say, the capacity is what sort of dictates all of this sort of stuff. We've got the brewery is also quite open, so it's not behind a glass wall. So basically, once we're open in the afternoon, we're out of the brewery. Basically, it's so we will eventually get to a more definitive round the year round sort of canning schedule.
Also, sorry, like I imagine that your plan for the big bottle releases is to put some of the bigger beers and more interesting beers into those format bottles for sharing. But I also imagine that your canning runs is the opposite of that. So is it hard to figure out what you want to package and send it to the market with those two different distribution options?
Yeah, I think with the canning option, you kind of want it to be gone as quick as possible. I know that sounds, you want people to be able, you need that recognition. You want that recognition from different people, but at the same time, you don't want this beer sticking around. Whereas I think when you go for that bigger package, you can put something that maybe will sit in the bottle and still be good in 18 months time, or something when you've got a reason to open this bottle. You've got that sort of special feeling, if that makes sense. I mean, the only other real packaging experience I got was back at Indian Ocean. We did a barley wine there, and that's had that same thing where, you know, you put a bottle away, and that was 2 years ago now, I think, and it's still kicking around in some places and it's still drinking really, really well. So, yeah, I think you've got to look at it from two different angles, I guess. Yeah.
Do you guys want to be the Western heroes of barley wine?
Dave, do you want them to be?
Absolutely, yes.
We focused
I
on
love
barley
seeing
wine
breweries like deal with barley wine on more than a once on the odd occasion frequency. I think that rules. That's so good.
Yeah. I mean, why not? Let's that's our new goal. Let's just be the kings of the West for barley wine.
Amazing. Yeah, I love it.
It's a tough brand proposition to make
I literally I buy every local barley wine that I see, and that's so infrequent that it doesn't come up that often. But I look for it.
You buy 2 beers a year.
Exactly. But
go,
I look for it every time though. Yeah.
You could go more niche and go like the kings of wheat wine or something like that. I feel
Again, perfect. Yes. That's a space that is
you're
right
undisputed
for occupation.
automatically.
Although I think over this side, hawkers have done 6 different barrel variations of wheat wine. Yeah.
That's all right. They're on the East Coast. We'll be
Yeah,
there.
exactly. Yeah. That's a different crown altogether.
You've got to use barrels that no one's ever heard of. What was in them first?
Yeah,
that was a confusing series in terms of they were just coming out with wheat wine after wheat wine.
An aquavit barreled wheat wine.
Yeah,
I don't know what this is. Yeah, in a 440 ml can. Wow.
So I guess we've come up to now, or the last sort of few months, but what is happening over winter time? What are you excited about?
Because of all the COVID stuff, we haven't had an opportunity to enter any beer awards. So I'm looking forward to getting some good constructive feedback on the beers from a range of different beer awards. And I believe, Gabs, I sent in my my application, so we'll see if we're accepted or not. So yeah, looking forward to that, and just a little bit of downtime. I think we're getting some new tanks. I don't know if I meant to say that, but we potentially maybe getting new tanks, I've heard. So that'll be good to just boost that capacity a little bit and know that we can sort of stretch our legs a bit and grow the brand some more. Some maybe another barley wine as well. So
put it in cans. I mean, we talked about barley wine in cans last week as well. So you can do it. You can do it. You'll sell one can today.
You'll sell one in Victoria every release, undoubtedly. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's always talk of getting to Melbourne and Sydney or wherever it might be, but at the end of the day, it's such a long journey, to go from Perth to Melbourne, and there's so much sort of that we could do here in Perth. So we got to weigh up our options, and I can't promise that we're going to be in Melbourne or anything. So,
we had a question earlier on in the chat about whereabouts you guys are in Perth, or
yep.
You said it was just kind of 5k from the CBD.
Yep.
What's
in
the
Maylands?
Where is it? Sorry?
Maylands. Sorry, Maylands. Sorry.
And what's the area? Is there any other breweries around you, or
there's no other brew pubs. We've got Feral and Nail sort of just down the road, but that's their production facility. So Feral have a separate brew pub in the Swan Valley. In terms of other breweries, we've got Blaster and Nowhere Man are probably the closest ones, but they're not walking distance or anything. They're a sort of 10 or 15 minute drive. And then you've got Northbridge Brewing in Northbridge as well. So, we're sort of in our own little area. There's not a lot of, I wouldn't say there's not direct competition or anything, because it's not a game. It's not a competition. It's not a who can get the most customers. But yeah, I mean, we're the first brewery that people go past on their way into the city, and we have quite a good area in terms of close to a train station, which a lot of other breweries aren't. Yeah, it's I guess it's suburbia. It's up until a few years ago, they're everywhere. All the breweries were in either the Swan Valley or Margaret River, and so when you'd go over to Melbourne for Gabs or the beer awards, it was kind of a little bit of a gimmick to see a brewery on a main street in Brunswick or something like that. So that's sort of, people are getting around it a little bit more.
Even like Brunswick is a funny example because it feels like in the last 3 to 5 years, if you opened a brew pub in the suburbs, you were laughing. You were finding an audience that no one else was getting into, and it was if you had the right approach and the right preparation, you were well positioned with a suburban brew pub.
Yeah. I think people are realizing that here, because you do have that. I would say probably 80% of our clientele at the brew pub are locals. They're people who they're going out for dinner, they're going out for a beer on a Sunday. It's, while you want to be a destination, you've got to face the reality that, the people who live within 2 kilometers of your venue are the people you want to be getting, because they're the ones that are going to be coming here every week.
One comment from the chat from Damien, who said, if you ever see, we mentioned Aquavit barrels, he said, if you ever see Never Never Aquavit on a bar shelf, try it. Absolutely delicious. So, yeah, I don't think I've ever actually had Aquavit.
Duly, no, I've never had Aquavit ever, besides it aging particular beers, yeah.
I think I have had it. I don't know.
Could not even begin to tell you about
I think
it, yeah.
Never Never an Australian, are they South Australian spirits company? I don't know, Damien will correct me anyway. Interesting. Thanks for the rec, Damien. Yep. And Sam Smalley was talking up mountain culture in the comments as well.
Okay.
Hard to argue, yeah.
Get around mountain culture.
You were pouring your heart out about seasonal, but Sam Smalley definitely had mountain culture on his
mind. Any more questions from you, Dave?
What does the next couple of years look like?
I mean, it's hard to. I mean, we want growth. Basically, we want to grow the brand and get to a lot more venues and that sort of thing. I mean, personally, I'd like to make better and better beers. That's my goal. Without sort of, I guess that's why we enter the beer awards and that sort of thing. We want to get that constructive feedback from our peers and that sort of thing. And I'd like to hope that we can get a sort of core range in some cans or something like that, and potentially meet demand there. And then we look at expanding. Do we stick within WA? Do we go to Melbourne? Do we go to Southeast Asia, which it's a pretty big market up there? So I mean, COVID has basically meant that any plans that we have had in the past have sort of been either put on hold or rethought. As I said, we've gone into cans. We didn't plan on going to cans so quickly. I mean, I'd like to be able to get some of those bigger bottles and maybe have a yearly release of a barley wine, yearly release of a barrel aged stout or something like that. Just something to get some real brand loyalty towards a particular beer. That would be great. Yeah,
absolutely. Do you know the info on where people can find Seasonal on the internet?
Seasonalbrewing.beer is the website, and on Instagram, I think the Seasonal Brewing Co. I'm pretty sure it's facebook.com/the Seasonal Brewing Co.
Tight.
I'm fairly sure.
That is good.
The website.
There's only a lot of question marks in the responses that we get to that question, so you've done it very well. Yeah.
I mean, the other podcast that I will always plug that I'm on, we quite often frequently go. Yeah, we're online. I think the website is, and we all have to kind of Google it and double check. So there's no shame in that. Damien has confirmed Never Never McLaren Vale, and it was a one-off run of Aquavit. So there you go.
Only Aquavit he knows of being made in Australia. So if you see it, get it.
All right.
Awesome. Dave, where do people find you?
At MelpDave on Twitter. Send me an email, dave@elevatime.com, please. Just say g'day. That's all I need. Luke, how about you?
I just realised I didn't ask Brody if he had anything he wanted to add before we wrap this up as well.
Yeah, finished.
No, thanks for having me. It's been a blast.
Great.
Great way to spend a Monday afternoon or Monday night.
You can get me at AoaT, AoaTime.com, everywhere. As I mentioned, the Hypothetical Institute for your conspiracy needs in your podcast apps. Also, if you're watching on the YouTube and you haven't subscribed,
we're on $4.99. Come on, get us there.
people.
We need 500.
Yeah,
surely.
We're right on the cusp. We've been there for so long.
I'm looking at you. Who's in the chat? It's just Damien and Sam. I'm sure they're both subscribed. But come on, please.
And for people that are in the chat, here's a little sneak preview of the label that is going on the Pilsner.
Three parrots into three ravens.
Three ravens into some sort of whale.
Some sort of dragon or whale.
It's a whale.
Okay, whale.
Yeah.
I get it.
It's very stylized. They just arrived. We need to put them on bottles. So, Dave, we probably need to come visit your side of town.
Or whichever you want to do,
yeah. Awesome. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. And, Brody, thank you so much for...
Thanks, Brody. That was great. Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
And I've been...